Welcome to the Football Show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Peter Martin, Alan Ruff, Alison McConnell and Lee McCulloch here with me on this Friday to look ahead to the return of domestic football. The Scottish Premiership is back with us. We'll get the thoughts of everyone here, and here's a slight indication of what we'll be talking about. Michael Beale doesn't need assurances over his Rangers' future, but admits he must return to winning ways.
Listen, I don't need assurances. I'm part of a plan in terms of where we're going as a club.
Brendan Rogers reveals his frustration over Liel Abada's avoidable injury, leaving him sidelined for 5 months. Steven Naismith insists nothing has changed at Hearts since he replaced Frankie McAvoy as manager.
Nothing's changed behind the scenes from the time we took over for the 7 games to now, to be honest.
David Martindale reveals his frustration with current shareholders blocking new investment into Livingston.
Current shareholders or purported shareholders are trying to block that. They're trying to block any new investment coming into the club.
Frustrating time for David Martindale. We'll discuss that a little later on in the show. We'll get the predictions from all our pundits here, and you can hit the subscribe button and join the football family. Thank you very much to all of you for your support on all our programming right across the board, not only on YouTube but on the website, and indeed from the many thousands downloading the app as well, which brings you all the breaking news at your fingertips. Ruffy, great to have you back. You're looking bronzed as usual. Well, you would do, having 4 holidays a year. But I'll tell you, a bit scary that time over there in Morocco, and I think both you and your wife were well aware of the devastation that was left behind.
Yeah, obviously we had our experience, but I think there was a bigger experience outside the complex. I think everybody saw the pictures, the devastation in the hills and everything. You know, you're talking about 3,000 people being killed, which isn't a good thing when you're on holiday. But I think the good thing, all I'm going by is what I saw on the television, what was happening outside. But it was good that most of the countries had all got together very, very quickly to help aid and bring stuff in. So it was settling down a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to have you back. Obviously looking forward to the football campaign. Great to have Lee on my left-hand side, because as you won't know, Ruffy, I know sometimes when I played tennis with you over a long period of time, if we started to lose games regularly, you would dump me and hang about with other friends. And we're very close to that in the five-a-sides.
Another defeat.
You know, it's just unbelievable, Ruffy. If we, by the way, if we were the Hibs management team, we'd be teetering on the brink of the sack right now. You know that. Anyway, good to have Lee with us, and Alison, of course. No smoke without fire, and Michael Beale right at the top there, talking about, you know, there's a plan, it's in place, there's no threat to his job, but, you know, there's the stories that are slowly but surely gathering pace would suggest otherwise.
Yeah, I think he'll know that he can't afford any slips between, I would say arguably between now and the next game at Celtic Park at the end of December, certainly in a domestic context. I don't think he can afford to drop any points. I think it's almost got to be perfect from here on in. I think it's quite a daunting prospect tomorrow afternoon going up to Perthshire. He's obviously without Todd Cantwell, arguably one of the more creative players in that Rangers midfield. I think tomorrow's game will all be about just coming through it, getting the win, and then trying to take it on from there. But I think if there's anything other than 3 points tomorrow, I think the noise that you've heard across the last fortnight simply intensifies.
Yeah, Lee, every manager, assistant manager, they all know once the noise starts to gather pace, some of it can be somebody taking a flyer, but more often than not, you know, it's not too far away. You can feel the pressure, can't you?
You can feel it. You can feel it when you're sitting that side of the desk. I think he'll be well aware. He'll be well aware of the noise that Alison just spoke about there, the pressure that he's under even before a league game had started. Now it's started, it's probably not started the way that he's wanted it to start. Now there can't be any slip-ups. I think they need to go and convincingly win tomorrow, a difficult venue. And then I think they've got 7 games in maybe 22 days. Obviously the European campaign kicks in as well, so it's not going to be easy. They're missing Cantwell there potentially for a couple of weeks. I think this is where the squad needs to come together. It's like the same way with your Hearts, Hibs, Aberdeen, if they were going to get into European campaigns, they need everybody fit, and Rangers have got a couple of injuries getting into obviously tomorrow and the next few games. So it's real testing times.
And your eyes don't deceive you, Ruffy. If one player drops out, the others that come in and the squad that he has assembled have to step up to the plate.
Yeah, he was given a bit of leeway at the end of the season. He did go on a decent run, apart from when they played against Celtic. But certainly, you know, the wins that he'd tucked under there gave him a wee bit of encouragement for the beginning of the season for the supporters. Also, the signings coming in, you know, the supporters were right behind the team, you know, looking for a bit of progression. That obviously hasn't happened, you know, so as the guys are saying, you know, that puts you under pressure, you know, and particularly when you're at Ibrox and you'll get 50, 60,000, you know, who like to hear their voices when things aren't going particularly well. Tomorrow or Sunday, whenever the game is, it won't be as bad. I don't think there's any problem with Johnson. I think they're good enough. They've got quality in there to win that game. But as Alison said, your Rangers and Celtic, you've got to win every game. You know, you're under pressure in every game. But if you're not winning games, it's even more.
Well, I think we'll hear from Adam Binney, who was out there to get the thoughts of Michael Beale. Hopefully he's not choking as much as Lee McCulloch is at the moment.
I'm at the Rangers training centre this morning to speak to Michael Beale for the first time since Derby Day defeat to Celtic, just before the beginning of the international break. In the interim period, there have been plenty of Rangers fans calling for the manager's head, but he's still here and insists that he needs no assurances from the board that for the time being his job is safe.
Listen, I don't need assurances. I'm part of a plan in terms of where we're going as a club. It's something that I'm fully aware and involved in. And ultimately, a football manager needs to win games of football. And the last two we didn't win, so we need to get back to winning. And we've got, 7 games in 22 days now, so there's a good opportunity for us to do that.
Rangers are back in league action tomorrow as they travel to Perth to take on St Johnstone, but they'll be without a key player in Todd Cantwell. He'll miss that game and potentially a further 3 matches thereafter. But for the rest of the squad, Michael Beale says it's time for action, not words, if they're to win back the hearts of the disgruntled fans.
Well, they're sharing their frustration. It was heard loud and clear. I don't think there's much time for talking now. I think we need to make it up to them on the pitch in performances and results. I think that the fans are sharing their frustration and anxiety with the way the start of the season's gone. I think that's quite natural for any group of fans to show that.
Two things that spring to mind, Alison. First of all, when you hear a manager like Graham Potter saying, you know, he's been approached for Rangers and Lyon, you actually sit there as a manager and think, well, they're sounding people out now, so I know the score.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about it. I think actually if you're on the board you would be remiss if you're not starting to think about a contingency plan and what comes next, because the current evidence would suggest that it's a very, very thin road. He's on thin ice at the minute, given the results and the start to the season, and I think that's just the reality of where Rangers are. I think whoever had come out of Ibrox on the losing side a fortnight ago was going to find themselves under pressure. And I think for Michael Beale, there's very little credit in the bank when you go back and look at his head-to-heads against Celtic since he's come in. Obviously, the win at the end of last season came after the title had already been won. I think there's a big question mark that's still there over whether or not you can get a performance out of Rangers for the big occasion. And I think, as we said, I think if he drops any more points in a domestic sense, I think that pressure becomes almost unbearable and his position becomes untenable.
Yeah, and with that in mind, Lee, it's amazing how fans can turn quickly on big games, on games against your great rivals, because, you know, Michael Beale was heralded as the tactical genius behind stopping 10 in a row, but all that feel-good factor has quickly diminished and disappeared.
Shows you the fans are not happy. They've dropped behind yet again their biggest rivals, and the manager takes the brunt of that. Yes, the players get it, obviously during the game, after the game, but then from the week after, it's usually the manager that takes all the stick, and Michael will be well aware of that.
Do you need to see a style from him now? Do you think the fans need to see a style? Because some people in defence of him are saying, you know, calm your jets. You know, the domestic season it's a long campaign. He's only 4 games into it, albeit he's lost 2 key games. But should there be more that you can cut him some slack on the basis that he's built a team, with a number of signings and they need time, or is that just not in the equation?
We spoke about this last week, and it was coming off the back of the Old Firm game. We were saying it's still early in the season. It's getting to the point now, it doesn't really matter where you are in the season. The fans are not happy.
Yeah.
And everybody knows what happens when if you don't start winning games and the fans are not happy, and they're voicing their frustration after the game. They're doing it during the week, they're doing it to the press. I think the only way to remedy that as a manager or a player, the answer is always win games, and hopefully you can get them back on side.
Well, I did mention a couple of weeks ago, Ruffy, when Celtic were looking at a game against St Johnstone, which I think could have sent them six points clear, or at least 3 points clear. They slipped up and gave Rangers the chance to close the gap. McDermott Park, Stephen McLean, maybe starting to see a little bit of a response from his team, albeit that he's had to try and balance the books. They posted a £1.5 million loss, so the budget's tight there. If he gets injuries, he's in big trouble.
Yeah, but St Johnstone used to be a place that Rangers and Celtic would go and struggle for a wee bit and then eventually win the game. And St Johnstone will take encouragement out of the result at Parkhead, but if they go into that game and open up against Rangers, I have no doubt that Rangers will win that game quite comfortably. But they've got to go and do it the hard way. They know everything that we're talking about. The pressure's going to be there in the stand. An early goal just quietens that, gets everybody bouncing. And like Ali and Lee are saying, it's winning games. They've just got to win games. Keep winning. Keep winning and supporters get back on track. But they have now put themselves in a position. They had a couple of bad ones. I mean, and I'm saying they'll win quite comfortably tomorrow. But a one each tomorrow is no result that Rangers will want to walk away with.
Yeah, does that?
I'm not at the bit for him getting sacked or anything. I'm not in the inner sanctum of what's happening. But I don't. From where I'm sitting, I don't see him. A draw against.
So a draw's not breaking point for you?
Not for me, no.
I think if Celtic were to win and Rangers were to draw and Celtic go 6 points clear after 5 games, I think it becomes very difficult to survive.
I think it's 7 points.
Well,
6,
yeah. If it was a draw,
if it's a draw. Is that breaking point?
I think it would be.
Yeah?
I think it would be.
Breaking point for you? Anything less than a win?
I don't know, to be brutally honest. If it's not a great start, is it?
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. And
if they're sounding out managers after losing to Celtic, what the hell are they going to do with a draw?
Yes, if they are, I think, then it doesn't look good.
Yeah, okay. Doesn't look good for Liel Abada. This is what Brendan Rogers had to say about his injury, which he picked up in international duty. To be out with something that you can actually control is the frustrating thing. Control, as in don't do the shooting exercise at the end of training. When you fly, your legs are full of pressure from the flight. It's something you can avoid. It'll be a good learning experience for Liel going forward. So it looks as if he's out for 5 months. What a body blow that is, Ruffy.
It certainly is. Fortunately for Celtic, they've got a locker of wingers somewhere at Parkhead. They'll just open that cupboard and another 5 will jump out.
I've never heard that before. It's usually a pride of Lions, but now we've got a locker of wingers. Yes, one pops out, the other one pops in.
Of course, yeah. I mean, it is a blow. I really like him. I think he's the kind of player comes into big games in particular and gets a goal when needed. But I think, as I've just said there, I think Celtic have got another 3 or 4 like him who'll come in, maybe not be as good as him, but they won't be far off the standard that what they should be at, and that's why they've been brought to the club.
You can tell he's frustrated with his interview there.
Yeah.
Don't do the shooting drill at the end of training, and he's obviously went and done it.
Yeah.
And that's how he's...
Do you know what the problem is there? Automatically in my head, I don't know if you think the same way I do, don't tell the manager you did the shooting drill.
I think that's what he's done. Obviously one of the coaches is told.
Players telling truth, shocker. Siegrist, Narovsky, Kobayashi, Kwon, McCarthy, Tilio are not in the Champions League squad. And you've now got Abada out there, but there's more than enough cover for him.
I think Celtic have sufficient cover, but I do think they'll feel the loss of a quality player. I think if you look at his assists, his goals, particularly when they're going into a Champions League campaign, so where you're competing on a 2-pronged front, you've got domestic and European games. I think he'll be irked at losing them for that length of time. especially when it's something that could have been avoided. I think they do have sufficient depth to cope with it, but at the same time, I think he'll be annoyed at missing a player of that quality.
Yeah, and coming up, in this month, Ruffy, is for me the ultimate test for Brendan Rodgers, which is basically, has he got a squad that's been able to compete and able to compete in European football at Champions League level, or enough to get them Europa League beyond December?
I personally don't think there's enough for the Champions League. I think they'll go into the Champions League, they'll put up a good account of themselves, the fans will enjoy every minute of it.
Do you think he'll play the same way?
Well, that's what I'm saying. If I thought he was going to go away from home and play Maeda, Kyogo and Abada, I think, particularly away from home, I think his strategy's got to be different. He's got to come up with something different. We all know the way Celtic play, and they are very difficult to defend against, but he's got to show us that there is a plan B, if you want to call it that, when they come up against a really quality side, that they can sit in, and do what other teams do, but the breakaway and get a goal or two. But the evidence is there that he's not going to do that. He wants to entertain, he wants to score goals, but again, we'll have to wait and see how that goes.
Yeah, and ahead of the game against Feyenoord away, Phillips, Tilio, Johnson, Kobayashi, well, they're back in training along with one key player that was a key player for Ange Postecoglou when he was in charge, which is Rio Hatate.
Hatate, yes, he'll like to have him back. There's good options there, especially Johnson at right back, I feel. I think Ralston's come in for a little bit of stick to it, so to have Johnson back in training, back ready for the Champions League campaign, they're going to need to keep on changing, coming back for the weekend games after that, the domestic games. So I think the squad is strong. It'll just be really interesting to see how they play and how they do in the Champions League.
Yeah, Dundee, I think Tony Docherty really wanted to avoid Brendan Rodgers at all costs, because his experience with him as an assistant at Aberdeen, they very rarely came out and top against him.
No, and I think they were in the back of quite a fair few hammerings in Brendan Rodgers' first spell at Celtic. But yeah, I think you would expect Celtic to kick on now. I think it's been a fairly inauspicious start to their campaign too. I think the win over Rangers at Ibrox maybe papers over some of the cracks that were evident in the opening few weeks of the campaign. I think that Celtic fans will want to see a positive result. They want to see a certain style of play that was absent against St Johnstone. I thought it was a very turgid game when he played St Johnstone a couple of weeks ago. This is their first game back at Celtic Park since then. I think they'll want to see that they've kicked on a bit. They'll want to see that some of these players coming in have gelled. They'll want an indication that they're going into the Champions League ready to compete
Do you think
on two fronts. I think they're weaker than what they were last term. I think.
You think they're in for a few hammerings?
I don't know if I'd go so far as to say I think they're in for a few hammerings, but I think it'll be very difficult for them. I think they open their campaign obviously next week away in Holland and away to Feyenoord. I think if you could come away with that, with a point, I think it could possibly set you up for a decent campaign. However, I think that's a fairly difficult ask.
The other thing, Ruffy, I don't know if you were able to pick it up on some of the social media and websites and news websites. I've never met I don't know you. Have you ever met an introvert Dutchman? Because they're all one of them. I can't remember his name, but I read one and I thought to myself, that reminds me of so many Dutchmen that I know that are absolutely fantastic. We should have started Peter and Ruffy's football show in the Netherlands, Ruffy, because it was just everything's a baseball bat, isn't it? I read one of the former Feyenoord players saying he expects Feyenoord to win home and away against Celtic, and I thought, that's the type of quote. If only Lee was born in the Netherlands. You know what I mean? It would have been brilliant. I mean, they actually expect him to have a tough time.
Well, the Dutch are like that, that even right through the years that we've been playing, even national football, whatever, they're just invincible. They went through a phase of being invincible. I think that's not rubbed off on them yet. I think they still think they are
invincible.
The Cruyffs.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, the only one that I actually would probably, in all my experiences of interviewing so many Dutch players down through the years, technically gifted, always great, the only one that I probably think is not of that ilk, who's the best guy you could ever wish to meet, Arthur Newman. Arthur was just the nicest guy you could ever meet, isn't he?
Yes, very grounded for a Dutchman, put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Humble.
I wouldn't go that far.
Brilliant.
But lovely guy.
Oh, fantastic. Arthur was absolutely superb. Dundee, 6-1 win, 1 defeat, 2 draws. So we're looking at it, Ruffy, and what's your prediction for this one?
I'm going to go Celtic to win 3-0. It depends on what Dundee do when they come in. If Tony thinks he can go there and get something and he opens up, I think you could be thinking more than that. But they need a disciplined display to get in there so that the players can come away saying, well, we put in a good shift there. It was only 2-0 or 2-1 or something. Yeah. But I think it's going to be 3-0.
Good start to the campaign for Dundee, but I'm going to go 3-1 to Celtic.
I think I've got 3-0. Ali?
3-0.
What did you pick for St Johnstone Rangers?
2-1 Rangers.
2-0 I've got.
3-1 Rangers.
2-0 Rangers.
Okay. Hearts, Aberdeen. Patrick Mullen was out there to speak to the manager, Steven Naismith.
I'm here at the Hearts Training Centre speaking to Steven Naismith, who has been appointed first team coach of Harder Midlothian. Despite the change of titles from technical director, Naismith insisted today it will change nothing internally.
No, it was obviously there was discussions going on way back last season and what the options were to move forward. We found a solution for that and we went with it. Nothing's changed behind the scenes from the time we took over for the 7 games to now, to be honest. So it will be much more of the same. I think it's more a paper thing than anything else.
Hearts take on Aberdeen on Saturday as they look to end their 4-game losing streak, but manager Steven Naismith doesn't believe that it's a must-win game for his side.
No, because I think if we continue to do what we do when we're doing it well, we'll compete against any team. It's not. I don't think it is a must-win. Our performance level needs to be better. We need to be more aggressive when we're attacking. We need to carry more of a threat. But we've got a good squad that understands it. The experienced boys within the group are good. They're comfortable to speak their mind and say what needs to be better. And we've also recruited some younger players who are exciting, but still learning the game a lot.
Steven Naismith was also able to provide a positive injury update on their goalkeeper, Craig Gordon.
We've got some bodies coming back as well. Craig Gordon's been back in training pitch quite a bit. So in terms of him coming back in to be able to be selected, there's no time frame on that. He's progressing well and he's hungry is probably the biggest thing I could say.
I thought every game was a must-win, Ruffy.
I think it's a must-win for Hearts at the weekend. They haven't scored in the last 3. The fans will be expecting something special. You know, they'll be encouraged. We obviously Hibs beating Aberdeen the last game there. I think it's a tough one. I can't see them going 4 goals without scoring, so I'm going to hang on with Hearts to have the home advantage in this one.
Yeah. Craig Gordon, fantastic. He'll want to play as long as possible because he had that long period out of injury. He'll want to get back. He'll want to really push Zander Clark.
I think it's incredible. I think for the age he is and the stage he is at his career to come back from that, it was a double fracture to come back and it looked horrendous. It looked awful when you saw the photographs of it. The natural assumption is that it brings your career to a close given where he is and how old he is. So I think it says a lot about him that he had the hunger and drive to go through the rehabilitation, a fairly lengthy rehabilitation, and then get back up to the levels of fitness required that would enable him to go back and play first team football.
Not only first team football, I think he's still wanting to play international football. So he's rivalling Zander Clark, but he's also in his head at the moment rivalling Angus Gunn as well. So it shows you the ambition that he's got.
He's a good lad. I mean,
he's a nice guy.
Yeah, good keeper. You would have played with him international. Yeah,
fantastic goalkeeper. Played a few games with him, but mature for his age at that time, and great trainer, great attitude, and a great example for the kids.
Yeah, and Ruffy doesn't like him because obviously surpassed him in the 74 caps now. Ruffy's way ahead.
I don't mind him beating me.
Yeah.
You know, there's a few just underneath it. One that he knows.
Who?
You know, McGregor was one.
He close?
Never quite made it.
Oh, it's gone.
The goalie never made it either.
It's gone, that's fine. So there's two that haven't caught you.
No, and the ones that are there the now, I'll be away by the time they get 50.
Right, okay. There you are, I was going to say.
Craig is a nice guy. I mean, we were doing some stuff with him and we got a jersey signed for him, and I mean, as Peter tells you, I don't have a lot of numbers on my phones, you know, but I did put his number in, you know, because I had to get a jersey signed for a wee boy. So there was one Saturday we were sitting here, we were on show, and I must have sat on my phone and Celtic were playing Rangers and I sat in his number and he went, "What is it?" I went, "Who's this?" He goes, "Craig Gordon. I've got 30 minutes before the game starts. What do you want?"
Club fine for having your phone in the dressing room. If it's a must-win for Hearts, it's got to be a must-win for Aberdeen, surely. I mean, they haven't had a great start.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Stephen, they're saying that it's not a must-win home game against not your biggest rivals, because it's Hibs. What I mean is, probably come the end of the season, your biggest rivals that are going to be for third place. I'm really surprised that he's saying it isn't a must-win. I think it's a must-win for both managers to keep the noise of the fans batted down a little bit. You look at the Rangers Celtic scenario. Yeah. I think the losers of this game could come under pressure. The management could come under pressure.
Well, because I mean, it's incredible, because we only have to look to last season when suddenly you got to 7 games and they were calling for the sack of certain managers, and we're getting very close to that again. That's the nature of modern day football right now. Barry Robson, I think, trying to maintain the narrative that this is a long haul, not a short term fix.
This is a marathon, it's not a sprint. We've built a whole new squad. We're in Europe. It's the first time the club been in for 17 years in the group stages, and we've had to build a squad before it. So we know all that. But what's pleasing me is now we're all in and we're working with them all. And I was lucky enough when I played to be able to do this and travel in Europe and play. And it's great for the players and it's great for the club. And we know it's going to be real tough games. We know these European games are tough. You all know that. We know that. But it's where we want to go and play against these great players.
Yeah, Eintracht Frankfurt on the horizon as well. I am loath to even cut anybody any slack in all this nonsense, but quite simply it's rolled out as an excuse now that quite simply you can't play Thursday and then go Sunday. Could Aberdeen's European run work in the favour of the likes of a Hearts and maybe eventually a Hibs, or people who are potentially going to be challenging for third?
I think it could. I think there's definitely potential for there. I think if you look across Europe on the back of European midweek nights, that there's always a whole host of teams that drop points on the back of playing in Europe. I don't think that's anything new, but I would think a greater concern for Aberdeen just now is the poor form. I think European football is a bonus for them. I think they should go, and it's a fantastic opportunity, but I think if you're an Aberdeen fan just now, the concern is the domestic form.
Yeah, what have you got for this one?
I think I have gone 1 each.
Yeah, okay. Ruffy, I think I've gone a draw in this one as well.
I'm going to go 2-1 Hearts.
Yeah.
2-1 Hearts.
Yeah, can I just ask you at this point, and you're better placed than anyone to talk about this, what was it like trying to compete domestically when you were involved in the rigours of the European games?
Everybody talks about how difficult it is, and it is difficult because of travelling involved, but for me, just my opinion, it's a mentality. What's the problem with playing a Thursday and a Sunday? There's no problem. There's absolutely no problem playing a Wednesday and a Saturday. The squad is big enough to be able to rotate. You should be wanting to play anyway from a player's perspective, but from a management perspective, I think all the sports science can get into the heads of players where it's you need to recover or you won't be fully fit for the weekend. So I think some of the players need to take responsibility as well.
Yeah. Is it easier for a Rangers and Celtic because of the bigger squad? What about Aberdeen? Is there an excuse, or do you think the same thing?
I think the same thing. It was with Hearts last season, and I think we tried to take all excuses away for the players, and it just wasn't to be. We just went through a bad run of games domestically, and we couldn't we couldn't fix that or turn that round. So that's why I think this game tomorrow is massive for both managers. So whoever loses could come in to be under pressure.
Yeah, it's incredible, Ali. And by the way, it's not pundits that put managers under pressure. It's results which eventually force the fans to start. There's a revolt, there's a anger, there's displeasure, and some fans are able to get the ear of board members.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think you've seen it repeatedly. Once fans get to a certain point and you hear how vocal criticism is, it can be very, very difficult to quell it. I think the only thing that turns it is presenting a winning team, but even then I think sometimes that trust feels very fragile until you hit another poor spell. I think you've seen it repeatedly. I think sometimes you need a very strong board to resist that, which you've seen at times. Other times I think it just gets too difficult, it becomes too noisy that eventually you succumb, because if you can't see it getting better, if you can't see progress, if you don't see results, I think there's so much money at stake that it doesn't take much to force a hand.
Yeah, I'm just looking here, Ali. Is anybody beating Jack Ross's record? Is there are we getting somebody sacked this weekend?
Well, Hibs have already sacked Lee Johnson, that would have been.
That's another one, yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if anyone will be sacked this weekend. I think Michael Beale would be the obvious choice. You think if Rangers were to stumble, I don't think they will. I think they'll regroup. I think they'll get the result that they need. But I think were there to be a stumble at McDermott Park, then I think Michael Beale would find his position almost untenable.
Right, okay. I'm telling you.
Right, sure. I'm glad I went on holidays there for
Yeah, absolutely. Well, welcome to Scottish football, Ruffy. Is that? I mean, another thing about it, I always remember, and I hate to have back, it's because you're here, but I hate to have back. The Rangers fans, going to European games, we were commentating on them, and then domestically. I mean, at times you were murdered to watch, but as long as you kept winning, they were on the bandwagon.
Exactly. I think that's the biggest thing. If any questions, the answer to any question is just win. And I think you always win them back if you're winning games. Regardless of how you're playing, whatever the excuses are, if you're winning, it doesn't matter as much.
The problem with Hearts and Aberdeen are at the beginning of the season, they were telling everybody this is the season. This is us. Look at the players we've signed. Look at the money we've spent. Look at where we are. And then all of a sudden you don't get the supporters don't get the results that you were told you were going to get. Then you're under pressure.
I'm not too sure the managers were telling everybody this is the season. It was probably some people looking at it as fans, but on that basis. By the way, you weren't murder all the time, I have to say, because if I'd said you were murder on the radio show, Walter would have picked up the phone to me and said, "Hey, come in and see me."
That's a strong manager for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
You asked me Barry, but you've not asked Lee his views on not getting the extension of the season of the games. Would that have made any effect when you got to the final?
For the UEFA Cup final?
Remember you were trying to get...
Probably, aye.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah. Hold on, you get a wee chip there. I'll tell you a man who's not under pressure. Two men who are not under pressure this early in the season. Motherwell against St Mirren. It's just a great game, isn't it, to look forward to?
That was Kettlewell's first game, wasn't it? He took charge against St Mirren at home, so that's him made the full circle. I think it's a game to keep momentum going for both of them. Both will be desperate to win it. Stephen Robson coming back to his old team as well. I don't think it will be a free-flowing football game. I think it will be a game of second balls, and first goal will be important in it. But I'm going to go with a well.
Yeah.
2-1.
I don't think I would disagree with you on that. Let's find out what the Motherwell manager has to say with Adam Binney.
The international break is over and Scottish Premiership football returns this weekend. The break perhaps coming at the wrong time for Motherwell, who got off to a flying start, 10 points out of a possible 12 in their first 4 matches. But manager Stuart Kettlewell has been able to use the time off to complete some important off-the-field business, including the offloading of out-of-favour winger Joe Efford.
We never talk about it too much, and we managers don't get a lot of credit for it, but it's the financial side of it as well. Joe's one of the top, or was one of the top earners at the football club, and I'm immensely proud with the work that's been done over the summer in conjunction with the board, the chief executive, head of recruitment, myself, other members of staff at the football club, that we've managed to really kind of trim things down.
Kettlewell continued by detailing the thankless task of a football manager on a shoestring budget.
In my previous job, my job was to reduce a budget like you wouldn't believe, significantly reduce a budget. And somebody once told me that you never get a thanks for it, and I think they're absolutely right. I think they're absolutely spot on. We always sit here and plead poverty, and again, I'm not trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes, but what we have to make sure is that we have a competitive team out in the pitch and that we're reaching our goals. But all the while, football clubs have to have to exist. They have to run accordingly. So again, it's about me buying into that, but obviously trying to eke as much out of it as I possibly can.
Yeah, this is the test in this league. Sometimes you can get a manager who can come in and equally so can make wrong decisions on purchases that they don't work out. But I don't know about you, but I think it's a tougher job when you're actually cutting budgets and you've got a smaller squad and you have to somehow use all your skills to get something out of them.
I don't think there's any doubt. I would agree with you. I think it is tough. I think you're trying to trim a squad, you're trying to keep it competitive, and obviously he went in, inherited that squad from Stephen Hamill and knew that he had to get them up and away from the bottom end of the table. That was his first remit. Having successfully done that, it's about going and trying to be as competitive as possible this term. I think Motherwell will and should be aiming for a top 6 finish, but I think when you look at the resources, there's quite a sharp contrast when you look at resources at Motherwell level and even the teams that would be just above them, just thereabouts. If you look at Hibs, Hearts, Aberdeen, they would all be have a much stronger hand to play with.
Yeah, of course, budget's never too far away from Stephen Robinson, who is another man who works wonders. He likes to mention the fact that he has obviously had to cut budgets, certainly last season. But great credit to him, because all the plaudits have been coming his way for what he achieved last season. And of course, it's not a bad start this season, as Kerry Pollock is finding out.
This weekend, St Mirren will take on Motherwell in their first game back after the international break at Fir Park. And despite the transfer window coming to an end, Stephen Robinson says for players such as Keanu Bacchus and Ryan Strain, he's already on the search for potential replacements.
We've got ourselves in the position where we won't sell players for buttons. We had an offer in the window that we just didn't think met the value that we thought the player was worth, and fair play to the board, they stuck by that. But there becomes a balance. But we have to also weigh up where keeping players would get us an extra 2-3 positions in the league, where you get extra prize money for that as well. So certainly it'll be a calculated decision. And, from the minute that I know players in the final year of their contract, I'm looking at replacements.
As for 23-year-old Colin Boyd Munt, who spent the majority of his youth down south, says he's already been surprised by the competitiveness that Scotland has to offer.
I didn't expect to have as much competition throughout the league as there is. You come up to Scotland, people think it's a 2-horse race, blah, blah, blah. But already this season, you've seen the surprises. You've seen the other teams like Kilmarnock put up the fight against the big two, Celtic's out of the cup. So you're here and you're thinking, God, everyone's in with a chance. Even us, we're going, well, why can't we do it? Why? You know what I mean? Why not? So it is a lot different to what I thought, but in a good way.
Will it be another win in the bag against the Steelmen for the Buddies, or will Motherwell be on the search for redemption? It all kicks off on Saturday at Fir Park at 3 o'clock.
Oh, that's a tough one, Rafael. Narrow Motherwell win for me.
I think it is. I mean, we talk about on the show who's going to be first, who's going to be second, who's going to be third, who's going to be fourth. I think this is 5th versus 6th. I know it's an early on in the season, but I think the two teams will be the two teams I think will be trying to squeeze into that top 6.
Oh, if you think this is 5th versus 6th, then which one's out of that top 6 then? Aberdeen, Hibs or Hearts?
No, I think one of them will be in the top 6. There'll be Celtic, there'll be Rangers, there'll be Hibs, there'll be Hearts, there'll be Aberdeen.
Right.
And one of they two
will
be 6th.
Right, which one do you think?
At this moment, I would say St Mirren.
Yeah?
But I'm going to go Motherwell.
There you are. You know what? You're one of those guys you go to a casino with any places. A £1 on that, and a 1 on that, and a 1 on that, and a 1 on that. Brilliant, Ruffy. Ali, did I get yours?
I'm going to go for a draw.
A
2
draw.
each.
Okay, Ross County against Livingston. I'll tell you one thing that we don't think. I think the general consensus is Ross County will not be in the last day scare that they managed last season.
No, I think the early signs are they've obviously kicked on for last season, and we expected that for Malky as well. He's recruited not bad. I think the start they've had has been okay, but I think they'll get better as well as time goes on. So I agree, I don't think they'll be down anywhere near what they were last season. I don't think they'll be top 6, but I don't think they'll be in trouble either.
Yeah, well, talking of teams that I think might be in trouble if they don't get the investment and a new owner, I think Livingston might be staring at the trap door. Here's the thoughts of Patrick Mullen. He was chatting to David Martindale, the Livingston boss.
I'm here at the Tony Macaroni Arena speaking to David Martindale, and his side are preparing to take on Ross County. The Livingston boss believes that the league could be as close as ever this season, ahead of what is set to be a crucial away fixture.
I think it's going to be a really difficult game. I think Malky's an extremely good manager. I think he's coached and managed at the highest level. He finds himself up in Dingwall. I think he's done a very, very good job. It shows you how competitive the league is. I think Ross County were 6th this season before last, and then we finished 11th this year.
Martindale revealed that there is an ongoing dispute between shareholders and the club that has resulted in a new court case.
The club's trying to bring new shares into circulation so we can sell them in the open market or to new investors. And current shareholders or purported shareholders are trying to block that. They're trying to block any new investment coming into the club. So that's really as much as I know, and that's really as much as I think I can say on it.
Well, there's your dilemma right away, because quite simply he's crying out for somebody to come in, but there seems to be a fair bit of politics going on in the background, power struggle, people blocking investment, not happy with maybe the figures they're wanting if they're going to leave the club.
Yeah, it makes his job all the harder when if there's somebody ready to put money into the club, he'll be seeing it as getting money in his budget, and if there's shareholders there blocking that, it's a tough one for him, probably a tough one for him to take. How does he get out of it? Just try and pick up results and points, and hopefully it'll get there. I think the whole thing of the last maybe 18 months to 2 years, David has showed how good a manager he actually is on a shoestring budget.
Yeah, who have you gone for?
Livingston. 2-1.
Wow, I'm going to go Ross County to win. Ruffy, you've gone?
I'm going Ross County 2-0.
Yeah.
Ross County 1-0.
Okay, there you are. It's the joy of it all. Don't forget to put your predictions in the predictor. What's the predictor? Well, it's just basically that game that you've been crying out for all through last season, so we put it into operation. If you download the PLZ Soccer app, you can click on Predictor in the menu and takes you straight through. You can register at any point. We're giving away monthly prizes, and we're also going to give away at the end 2 places at the PFA Player of the Year dinner at our table, so it should be a right good night. I can tell you it will be a right good night, because usually the troops are well up for it. So if you want to enter, you can at any stage. It doesn't really matter what time you enter. It's all a bit of fun. Put your predictions in there and see if you can beat the pundits. I don't think it'll be too difficult at the moment, because I think we're well behind most of the punters. Who some of the results that have come out, Ali, it's so difficult to predict.
Yeah, I think I might have been under pressure for the axe. I might have been one of the early season casualties. I think, judging by my performances in the opening weeks of this campaign.
Yeah, it's been a real tough one. Not for Ruffy. He's just sitting there all smug because I think he got 13 points the other week there. But
yeah, a couple went my way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, humility kicks in. You definitely get no Dutch heritage. Kilmarnock against Hibs. Nick Montgomery in charge, and Hibs fans will be thinking, there's a new brand of football coming. There's going to be youngsters in there. There's going to be players that will be galvanised and rejuvenated under Nick Montgomery. That's what they're hoping for.
That's what they'll be hoping for. I think under David Gray, the players showed the reaction. But with Nick Montgomery, I don't think he's had 60 games as a manager yet. So he
has a title in the bag.
He has an experience, but he has got an A-League in the bag with the youngest team to ever win it.
Yeah.
With the lowest budget in the league apparently as well. So he's coming from good stock. it'll be interesting to see. He's all about promoting the youth there. The Hibs have got a decent youth set up. Whether he believes any of them will come in and make a difference, time will tell. Time will tell how they're going to play. But I'm really looking forward to that game tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to how his team is going to play, which will probably just start to, we'll get a real sense of it maybe over 3 or 4 weeks. But he's certainly going to be the favourite of the young players at Hibs, because he reckons academy players and young players are going to get their chance.
There's plenty of young players in the academy that supported the club, and no doubt have a dream of one day walking out at Easter Road, because I had that myself as a young player, and I think that's really powerful. And again, with the right recruitment, senior players, visa players, and young players, I think that's what every club, with success, it should be built on.
Yeah, so a man who's starting out as Hibs manager with high hopes. We've had a few.
There has been indeed across the last few seasons. I think and it's a fairly difficult start. I think going to the way that Kilmarnock have started the season, I don't think Rugby Park is seen as a particularly inviting venue to go and try and kick off. He'll be looking for an immediate reaction. He'll be looking to get a tune out of Hibs and then try and find a bit of consistency that's just eluded Hibs across recent campaigns.
What about Kilmarnock? Well, our man Adam Binney was down there to find out the thoughts of Derek McInnes.
Derek McInnes is one of the most experienced managers in the Scottish Premiership, but this weekend he's up against the league's newcomer as he welcomes Hibs and Nick Montgomery to Rugby Park here tomorrow afternoon. It's game week 5 and McInnes is already up against a newly appointed manager, something that he's not a fan of.
It saddens me really that we've got a new manager in already and we're just in September. I think that is unfair, but decisions get made above as managers, and we've got a new manager in at Hibs already early on in the season.
McInnes is already well acquainted with the new Hibs boss. They actually shared the pitch together during the famous Battle of Bramall Lane match, where 3 Sheffield United players were shown red cards in a match against West Brom, which was eventually abandoned.
He butted. I remember scoring the best goal I've ever scored. Nobody really talks about the goal, they always talk about the headbutt. It was just carnage. It was an unsavoury afternoon for English football, to be honest. No, I think the last time I seen them we were all fighting in the tunnel.
Well, I have to tell you, if you ever get a chance to see that game, you can get it on YouTube, just a full scale. It was just, it was one of those games up the park where first tackle in, bang. There was a bit of needle before it. That's the one you want to look back on.
Oh, it sounds like a crazy game, but you get them. Everybody's had them in their career, and I think with the tackles fly in and emotions come, and then the next minute everybody's in the tunnel. And
which game?
Even Old Firm games have spilled it into the tunnel and that nobody's heard about, and like the press have not got a holiday and all the rest of it. But it's just pushing and shoving, really. He's talking about headbutts.
Yeah. Oh, honestly, it was a fantastic game, Ruffy. I mean, there was tackles going in. There was guys. There wasn't just one player with a red mist. There was about 7 or 8 of them, and the referee was just cardoning them non-stop. It was mental.
You just need 3 in the one side who are liable to join in. If you get teams when you maybe have one who might do it, but if there's another 2, 3, one.
Yeah. There's a man who talks from experience. Graham Souness, studs on George McCluskey. All hell lets loose. 21 players in a punch-up. Ruffy, 100 yards away. Nowhere near it. Yeah, exactly. Sort yourselves out. Spineless. Simple as that.
Sensible.
Yes. Oh, brilliant. Well done, Ali. Redeeming the situation. Okay, who's going to win that one? Kilmarnock or Hibs? I've got Kelly to edge it.
One each.
Oh my God. Oh, wait a minute, you get scalps all across your back sides. Unbelievable. What did you make of, the first chance I've got to talk to you, what did you make of England-Scotland?
I thought it started a great game. I just thought England were better all over the pitch, especially middle of the pitch, which is arguably Scotland's probably strongest area, or middle to left you'd say with Scotland, but middle of the pitch I thought England were fantastic. Bellingham, Foden. I felt sorry for Adams up front. He couldn't get a touch of the ball, they couldn't get involved, they couldn't run away for the centre halves, which he has been doing in previous games. Scotland flying high in the crest of a wave, but for me, they've found that if they want to compete with the top 5 in the world, let's say, there's another couple of levels to go up.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because you know, if anything, Ruffy, it wasn't a surprise to many of us. We were all predicting, hopefully, that if Scotland could get a draw, it would be a fantastic result because of the quality that England have. They have 3 or 4 players that are playing football at a level that Scotland were not able to match. And as you know yourself, Ruffy, you know, it's all about levels. If you can't lift your head, if you can't get that time to play the football you want to play because the opposition are too good, you get found out. And boy, did we get found out.
Yeah, I mean, Lee touched on a couple of them, Foden and Bellingham, you know. And we talk about the squad that we've got and the really good quality we've got in midfield now, better than it's ever been for a long, long time. And then you look at they two and you go, wow, you know, could you give a line of them for a couple of weeks?
Yeah.
You know, and see,
20-year-old as well, by the way.
You know,
yeah.
and then Harry Kane, in the 90 minutes of that game, I don't remember him doing anything but scoring the goal. And we don't have anybody like that.
Yeah.
You're quite happy to wait. And England, the England team are quite happy to wait until that chance comes along, because they know when that chance comes along and they give it to him, it's going to hit the back of the net. We don't have a striker like that.
Yeah, could have done with them at the 5s this morning, to be honest with you. And of course the other aspect of it that I think we all have a reality check on, quite simply, is Lee. We know we're a 2nd tier, 3rd tier team. We're looking forward to getting to the tournament. How much can you remember a team that you played against? I mean, I know you're going to say France. Can you remember a team you played against that just absolutely, you know, you knew that it was a better learning curve playing against them? Because that's what Scotland have got there. They've got a real learning curve against England.
I think it's a real learning curve, but it'll do them good to get that experience, getting into the games that they've got coming up to cement getting to the Euros, and then it gives them experience when they go over to the Euros. Playing against elite level football is unforgiving. You do get found out, nobody feels sorry for you, and to answer your question, yes, France.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. Because I know there's did the manager just actually before the game hand you the Dick Turpin masks, or did you wait till after it? It was an absolute doing. Ali, should we read too much? Should we be too surprised that Elliot Anderson says no, he's going to bide his time? There's not a decision yet. We're jumping the gun here with
it. I think we're expecting the decision. I think everyone anticipated that when he came out the squad. I think you knew it was moving in that direction. I think Scotland will see it as a disappointment. I think it's maybe one that gets away. I think we're not really in a position where we can be overly choosy about any quality players coming in, so I think there will be some disappointment. However, in saying that, I think you want players that want to be there. I think you want to be part of it. You want to come with a commitment to it, and I think if there's any doubt, then maybe better off going elsewhere.
We'll wait to see exactly what happens. I'm going to come back to you, Ali, on a really positive note, because it doesn't need to go to any kind of court or arbitration. The SFA have reached an agreement with Scotland's women and resolved the matter, and this is over pay, training facilities, hotels, the travel, the kit, the resources, the sponsorship, the commercial deals. Is this a bit of justice and sensibility around it?
I thought the wording of the statement was intriguing. I thought it was very interesting. At no point does it mention an agreement. I think it spoke about a resolution. I think both parties will be relieved that it's not going all the way to a tribunal, that it's been settled out of court, particularly because Scotland kick off their Nations League campaign a week today. They play England down in Sunderland, and then they host Belgium 4 days later. I think Pedro Martinez-Losa was very keen yesterday to stress that this has never been disruptive, even though it was running in the background. I think, however, you know, in an ideal world, you don't want any distractions going on, and there's a full focus. I think certainly there's probably still some way to go, or the girls will feel as though that there's still some way to go to getting everything that they want, in a sense. But I think clearly there's been fantastic strides made across recent years in terms of the facilities and the setup and the infrastructure around the women's national team, and I think you would hope that the trajectory of that continues. But ultimately I think everything comes down to money, to commercial sponsorship opportunities, to magnifying the team, to getting it out there and to attracting sponsorship and attracting fans to come along.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got a bit to go here in Scotland in relation to England, almost certainly in the women's game, but heading in the right direction. Good result from that. Just before we say farewell to you, don't forget you can download the PLZ Soccer app. You'll get all the breaking news at your fingertips. There are so many good and different programmes for you to watch, hopefully. Thank you to the thousands of people who posted very positive messages across Facebook, certainly on Twitter and TikTok and YouTube as well, about our variety in programming. We obviously wanted to give you as much quality programming as possible, and you've responded very positively, so thank you once again for that. Because you can watch the Women's Football Show with Alison and Kerry and special guests. You can watch Straight Talk, which is absolutely, I'm thoroughly enjoying it because we're interviewing footballers and people from the world of entertainment, politics, you name it. And we also have the Journos, which is always good to get 4 journalists sitting around a table just arguing about anything, which is just like a European trip, to be perfectly honest with you. English Premier League, here's the fixtures, Ruffy, and I wonder which one catches your eye. Wolves against Liverpool, Villa against Palace, Fulham, Luton Town, Man United against Brighton, Tottenham against Sheffield, West Ham, Manchester City, Newcastle, Brentford, Bournemouth, Chelsea, Everton, Arsenal, and Nottingham Forest, Burnley. It's one of those weeks where nothing really screams out other than the fact, Ruffy, that everybody is still on that Ange Postecoglou bandwagon. He's Premier League Manager of the month for August. Spurs second in the table, 3 wins and a draw. He's been nominated also for the FIFA Men's Coach of the Year. He can do no wrong. I'm expecting him to announce this week that he is running for president.
No, I mean, he's had a fantastic start down there. I think any Spurs fan down there, obviously they were a wee bit anxious about what they were getting, but I think he's convinced most of them at this moment in time he's the man that's going to change it round. And you keep saying that Tottenham are the team that they keep saying, what is it you keep saying? They keep saying they're going to win trophies, and can't remember the last time they won one.
Yeah, well, they are. They're a team that wants to play the Tottenham way, which is an FA Cup every 20 years and one fantastic player that they eventually sell on for millions. I'm sorry to be so cynical, but nevertheless, Ali, I turn to my cynical friend. They've got Robbie Williams singing an Ange Postecoglou song. I mean, for God's sake.
I think for us who watched Ange Postecoglou for a couple of years up here, I think there's maybe a quiet vindication. You know, like Spurs fans were so sceptical about his appointment. I think it reflects well on the Scottish game. I think it reflects well on Celtic to see him go down and do so well at Spurs. I think you'd have to be rooting for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Even though he's lost his cough, Andy allows journalists to actually go and meet him in a press conference.
Yeah, it's interesting, and goes on radio shows.
There you are, fantastic.
They call him mate.
Eh?
Mate,
depends on the quality of the question.
Exactly, he does. He did laugh when I did suggest it to him that anybody who has did you get mate at any time?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought you would have. Not that I mean it was a dumb question, but he does like to belt people out into left field. But we wish him well, and we're going to watch him with, just to see if this Ange ball really does take flight and they can do something special.
I hope they do. I really hope they do. I'm with Alison. It reflects well on the Scottish game. It reflects well on Celtic, on Ange's self, obviously. He came into Celtic himself. He's went down to Spurs on his own. Could have took the backroom team. For whatever reason he didn't. He's on his own, and he's proven to be a real top manager.
I always think that. I thought that at first when he came into Celtic, and he came in happy to stand alone. I think it says a lot about the confidence that you have in yourself, that you're willing to walk into a club and say, I'm the man here. You'll adapt to my ways, and I'm going to show you what I'm all about.
Yeah, we wish him well. Okay, thank you very much to Alison, to Lee, and to Ruffy, who's back with us. Brilliant to have him back as ever. And of course, I knew him when he didn't have a tan all those years ago, when he used to work regularly on the programme. But now it's just the odd fleeting appearance. He's turning into Alan Brazil. Anyway, on that note, don't forget, hit the subscribe button, join the football family. Thank you for your support. And tomorrow I'll be here with Ali Graham p.m. we'll give you the half times from all our reporters out at the key games and the full time, and we'll get reaction from managers and players. It all starts at 3:45 live on our YouTube channel. Hopefully you can join us then. Don't forget that Kerry Pollock has her preview show tomorrow morning. It drops at 9 o'clock on our YouTube channel. Well worth watching. Thanks for watching today.